Hey everybody, Rob Morgill with Silencer Syndicate. I'm here with one of my favorites, Chris, and his brand, B&T. Get it? It's good favorites. Anyways, they've got a handful of AR-15s and accessories that are new to the industry today, as well as some new suppressors. I mean, B&T is always very busy, and this year is no exception. There's a lot of new things, but maybe cooler than before. The things that we're doing now that you're bringing to the AR-15 market, that you're bringing to the TP9, that you're bringing to a newer version of the APC. So let's start from the top and work our way down. AR-15s. Let's first start by saying this is not a PSA, and you can't compare in price. It's not designed for that. It's a high-end AR-15.
It absolutely is. So, and that's the best way to describe it. So there's been no expense spared on the creation and the development of this platform. So to give you a little bit of a backstory, there are a lot of end users of a very certain German piston gun in Europe. And
I can say HK.
Yep. Okay. Yep. And and that is a great gun and has served those forces well. There are elements within the U.S. side that have gone with an 11.5-inch direct impingement AR-15 for a variety of reasons. And as the Americans go, so too do the rest of NATO. So, and I'm not talking about necessarily general purpose forces, but sometimes. And so they are looking for a replacement for that platform, and it needs to be lighter, less recoil, suppressed, and a variety of other things. So this gun was designed to compete against it for those new.
But better than because.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we, again, going back to it, premium accessories or premium build, as you've said, this has got a 3D printed titanium handguard. It is extremely rigid, extremely lightweight. It's 10 ounces for a 10.5-inch handguard, and that includes the barrel nut, all mounting hardware, the steel reinforced QD sling swivels. It has got. We work with Geissele automatics on this, so it has a lot of Geissele's premium parts. So it has the bolt, as an example, has a life of 140,000 rounds.
So 6, 7, 8 barrels into the life of this rifle.
Correct. Yeah, the gas system is tuned and it is proven to runs excellent, suppressed, unsuppressed. It has Geissele's super dynamic combat trigger, flat face trigger. It has our new grip. It has Geissele's federal charging handle, and a host of other premium parts. It is expensive, but it's less expensive than the gun that it's
replacing.
Hopefully replacing.
Yeah. So what is the price point on this system?
You're looking at this particular model about $3,200 MSRP. Street price would probably be less than that. But again, this is a gun that you can't assemble in You could, I guess, assemble it at home, but I mean, sourcing the parts and it's going to cost you a whole lot more money. And it's really an outstanding performer. So just to give you an idea, like we used a version of this rifle during the endurance testing and R&D process of our Print-X hybrid suppressors, and we broke a number of manufacturers' uppers or rifles in that development until we had, worked with Geissele, and many of those upper receivers have seen in excess of 20,000 rounds of sustained fire during that testing, and that's a testament of the quality and
so you said it's tuned, so suppressed and unsuppressed, it runs reliably. And with say you're a suppressor, because it's not a high back pressure suppressor, it runs very well. And if you were to put a high back pressure suppressor on it, you would reap the rewards of a high back pressure suppressor, which is ill-advised. Gases to the face and otherwise. And then your muzzle device is yours, which in some ways looks similar to a war comp, but you're neutrally timed. So true to what you guys do with the full ambidextrous stuff, that it's not left-handed or right-handed preferred, because if you're a goof like me, you're not rising the wrong direction if you stand in the traditional stance.
Right.
I think the pistol grip is a big leap forward. And then your safeties. I had to learn your safeties when I started swapping out parts. HBI came up with a couple nifty things that I wanted to swap out, and your safety mechanism has no screws on it. And I think that's a mistake of a lot of other people's safety mechanisms. It's a weak point. Mm-hmm. Heat and impact makes things come loose. Yep. And you've got a spring detent system, which I think makes a ton of sense. Charging handle, Geissele, a lot of Geissele, and your handguard is not cheap. but it's particularly light and it's particularly robust, being 10 ounces in the short configuration, and in the longer configuration to more suit the 16-inch gun, that one weighs a bit more. I think you said 14 ounces, 12?
13.4 ounces for a 13.5-inch handguard. It's kind of weird how the math all worked out, or the weights, you know, but yeah, it's 10 ounces for a 10.5-inch handguard and 13.4 ounces for a 13.5.
Easy to remember.
It does make it very easy to remember.
And they're costly.
They are, yeah. I mean, to our knowledge, and maybe that's changed after the show. We're the only ones that have done this today.
The 3D printing of a handguard.
Yeah.
So what is the due date, expectation date of this rifle and those handguards?
So these rifles are going to be delivered March, maybe early April at the latest. So yeah,
Awesome.
they are coming out now.
And then to hop corners, you got the SPC223. The SPC9 has been around for a while.
Yep.
The SPC223 is releasing right now.
Yep.
And it's available.
That'll be available before the end of the second quarter.
Okay. And this is B&T's hybrid between an AR-15 and an APC.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's essentially a modernized version of the AR-15. So B&T looked at, hey, what would we, if we were going to create an AR-15 from the ground up today, what would we do? And that's exactly what we did. So we're, piston gun company. So the operating system is a short stroke gas piston system. It has a 3-position adjustable gas block, fully ambidextrous, upper and lower receivers. It has a large hydraulic buffer system. And I mean, Rob, you've been shooting a long time. You're a very, very good shooter. Your gun handling is exceptional. And I watched you. There was a target at probably 125 yards the other day, and man, you hammered that target like it looked like as fast as you could pull the trigger. It was bang, 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 and you were just not missing at all. And I think that's a testament to not only your shooting ability, but also the platform's ergonomics and recoil impulse. Because instead of chasing that dot up in the screen, it kind of just shimmies in.
100%. There's a conversation that you and I are going to have one of these days when we get to have some range time together about a different stance that I've adapted from my career's experience of being an operator, being an instructor in that space. But you got to have a good tuned gun, because the gun does want to climb high left, high right, depending on left hand, right hand.
Right.
And if you have a well-tuned gun, it will float on the target as you're rocking that trigger as fast as you can. But you have to first have a well-tuned gun. But then to have a well-tuned gun and put a suppressor on it and keep the gun well-tuned is actually a really big ask. So yesterday, or 2 days ago, playing with that rifle, it felt well-tuned. And with a silencer, it was just, there's recoilless isn't a thing, but it's a feeling. And it feels very recoilless.
Yeah.
Very cool gun.
It's really an amazing platform. Yeah, I have too many good things to say about it. It is going to be available in a 12.1-inch barrel, which is what you see in front of you, and then as well as a 16-inch barrel as well.
But it should be a 12.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. One other thing on it is it does have replaceable wear parts.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a gun that, is going to last you a very, very long time. And, parts wear out, they're easy to replace. So
I like the full ambi. Again, it's the APC full ambi parts that I've come to really love. And then you remove the ejection port, which is great, because that's not really something that's terribly important in my opinion.
Great.
There's a lot of pieces on rifles that, well, they're supposed to be there, so they're there.
Right.
But we can evolve, and I like your take on, the AR-15 from the ground up in your eyes, because I think that's a big breakthrough. Now, I want to ask one more question about that. You said 3-point adjustable gas, and I'm going to guess standard suppressed adverse?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Makes a lot of sense. That seems to be the go-to. And when you go to suppress, that's going to choke off a certain amount of gas that is almost specifically designed for a line of suppressors, which would be
ours.
Of course.
A reduced back pressure system suppressor.
So if you were to put a Rotex on the end of it, you would have increased back pressure, of course. And if you were to put it into the reduced back pressure setting, you would cut off 50% of that or some portion. But the Print-XH, for example, would pair very well in the suppressed setting because it's only a little bit extra gas.
100%. 100%. And the cool thing about it, this gun has been in development for a while. And at one point, it was a direct impingement gun because we were testing gas settings. And it had a 12 position adjustable gas block as we were tuning this thing in. And, the 3 positions that we picked are optimal for, reduced back pressure system suppressors or a seal system, depending on what the end users had adopted or used. One other thing I'd like to just note on this is most piston guns are very, very heavy. This gun is sub 7 pounds.
Yeah, that's extremely noteworthy. And you know, one more thing too on that gas setting is I have found suppressor adjustable gas systems, which we're doing good now, which is wonderful. Those are out there. Silencers are so common, you have to cater to it. You're silly if you don't. But it's full back pressure and standard, and then maybe adverse. But there's no low back pressure suppressor setting. So you end up with, okay, I guess I'll leave it on full gas, and now my low back pressure is giving me more back pressure than I really need because there's some increase, just even if it's just a little bit. So to cater specifically to a low back pressure suppressor, I think is extremely interesting. All right,
That's the way of the future.
totally, I 100% agree. So final chapter. There's a whole bunch of little things we'll mention quickly, but next firearm in the final chapter here is.
Yeah, this is the TP9 Pro. So the TP9's been around for quite a while. TP9 or MP9. It is designed to be a PDW. It's probably the most popular, least seen PDW in the world. They're tucked under suit jackets all over the place. And there have been some pictures leaked out, you know, some assassination attempts by like former French, President Nicolas Sarkozy. And you'll see his bodyguards, you know, there's still images of them just pulling out MP9s out of their suit coats. And there's been a variety of others, but TP9's been around for a while. It's a great gun. Some people have given us some feedback, and we've taken that to heart, as we always do. So we've made some improvements based on that. And one of those things is, I guess I'll work from the bottom up, is it's got a flared magazine well, obviously with like protective detail, and you've got to pull a gun out fast. Like repeatable grip is kind of a big thing. Not only does that magazine well help feed a reload, more importantly, it sets the shooter's grip. And it is consistent each time you grab.
Pushes a high firm, so it's not just funneling a mag, it's funneling a hand up.
It's funneling the hand up. The next up is a trigger. That's probably the most common feedback we've received on the TP9 specific is, hey, like we'd like the trigger to be a little bit lighter, like the flat trigger. So this one is 3D printed out of titanium. It provides, and it is adjustable for over travel and pre-travel actually. And it provides a nice, crisp trigger pull. Next up, everything is ambidextrous on this. You've got a new top cover that is M-LOK compatible instead of just a Picatinny rail on the right side. The one really cool thing about this is the back is sealed in, and the type of material that we use to actually physically seal this escapes me right now, but it is sealed. And historically, if you put a legacy non-RBS suppressor on this gun, it gets real gassy. Obviously with the new reduced back pressure system suppressors, it's not as bad, but if in full auto, you still get gassed out a little bit. We removed the charging handle in the rear, sealed the system, moved the charging handles up here. They're non-reciprocating, folding, ambidextrous charging handles. And so that's a big deal. The other thing is we created a sight pocket specifically for Aimpoint's Acro P2, and you actually have pistol style backup sights that are snag free, obviously, that are sub lower 1/3 co-witness. So they are there if you need it, very usable, but you won't even see them if you're not looking for them.
Much ingenuity went into just that, the recess and optic who's doing that? And who's putting backup? You look at a gun like this, you say, okay, it's expensive, I got to buy it. Now I need an optic, now I need sights, now I need all the backup systems because batteries fail. And I would say my chief complaint on the previous model was that charging handle back to the rear, very AR style. Yep. And that's problematic, especially if you're folded up. Getting that charging handle from a folded position is very difficult. Yep. So to make this as ambidextrous as it now is piquing my interest.
Well, it helps to have engineers that are true enthusiasts. They're not here, because they could.
Not a job.
Yeah, they are here because they are passionate about it, and that's one of the real big blessings that B&T has, are just a great culture internally. So
passion cannot be taught. Passion cannot be paid for.
No, not at all.
It's a wonderful thing. And then, of course, you put a QD in the back here because when you're doing executive protection and concealment work, that whole sling tension concept with the weapon folded, you've got a good balance point that stays out of the way of your folding system. Hugely smart, and that also is like where that bleed hole used to be that some people would say would overgas when they had a standard style suppressor. So all the chapters of like what's left, this thing is phenomenal. And again, before it was interesting because it's iconic, but it wasn't interesting to me. And I did get to shoot one at the event in full auto, and it's fun, but it's not interesting to me. But now that you're fully ambidextrous, now that you've got this QD, the M-LOK, the optic recess within, now it's very interesting to me. And I'm sure with many others who saw it and kind of said, iconic, cool, but do I want iconic guns or do I want really useful guns?
Functional guns, right?
And now it's highly functional. So I love what you brought to the table on that program. Hopping gears, we've got, because you know I'm a silencer nut job, we got to talk silencers. So we've got the Print-X's, and you know, if you want to know more about the Print-X, you're going to have to watch our long form video because we go deep into the rabbit hole of the Print-X, the Print-XH, and the surrounding suppressors, as well as the barriers they had to work through to make this dream idea come true. And it's a long form, and I hope you guys like it, but you're going to have to follow the link to check that out. So we're going to skip past the Print-XH and move into the 36 modular. Modular 3D printing is becoming a thing. It's a new thing. But I mean, 3D printing is still a new thing. But the modular 3D printing is so because we gotta be honest with the industry. The civilian side buys an affordable can that can do everything in their collection, and then they come back and say, well, it does everything. It doesn't do everything all that great, but it does everything. But no one has a really low back pressure version of that because there's a lot of problems that would come with take it apart, put it back together, and still have low back pressure. 100%. You've defeated that.
Yeah, so this really came about by, there's a lot of new suppressor companies entering the market. And, you know, we've been asked, hey, you know, our suppressors are very competitively priced. Very, very competitively priced. But we were asked, hey, like, are you going to kind of dip into that budget suppressor? And we said, no, but what we're going to do is we're going to provide a suppressor that has a ton of value and utility. And that's where this VERS36 came from. It is 3D printed out of titanium. It's hub compatible. It is reduced back pressure system. It is modular. It is multi-caliber. So you can get a 22 caliber, 30 caliber, 36 caliber end cap. You know, obviously whatever hub design or caliber or thread pitch, that you want. It's choose your own adventure, right? So do you want to put it on a 22? Do you want to put it on a 5.56? Do you want to put it on a 300 Win Mag hunting rifle? Yes. You can do all of those things. How about my 9mm pistol? How about a Glock 19? Yes, actually, with a impulse hub adapter, you can do just that. Just a couple weeks ago, we shot about 1,500 rounds through a Glock 19 at an event with this suppressor. And you look at it and you're like, man, like that's a pretty big suppressor to put on a pistol. I don't know if it functions, especially on a gun like a Glock 19.
An unlocking mechanism.
Oh, yeah. 100% no malfunctions. People were putting mag after mag after mag after mag after mag through it. So it really is a do everything suppressor and really a do everything well. So again, value priced, it's $850 MSRP, but man, you've got a suppressor that does it all and does it all pretty darn well.
I'm very excited to dive deep into and do the testing that I love to do, specifically around the suppressor, because I mentioned earlier, and I don't know if you want it to be seen on camera, but I was up last night later than I should have been, wondering, like, how are you going to have a flow-through system or a reduced back pressure system that comes apart and then maintains its integrity of flowing through during disassembly, reassembly? And I think the way you did that, and speaking with the engineer side of things, you nailed it. It's really nifty. Now, I mean, I'm saying you nailed it. I have no experience with this suppressor other than on the range day recently,
sure.
Which, there's variables there. So when the time comes, hopefully in the very near future, we'll do a deep dive. And I know you guys are excited to hear how this thing is going to perform, the back pressure, how it performs on a pistol, long, short configuration, etc. We very much so look forward to, because this is very nifty, and no one's really got that space nailed down, no. Especially in a low back pressure version.
Yeah, this, like I said, it does it all. It checks all the boxes.
Super excited to play testing either that. So to move on to these guys here, this is the toys I'm going to sneak out of here with.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. I was going to put them in my pocket anyways and see if you noticed, but now I have permission. So this is very war comp-ish design, but instead of Surefire's war comp design, which it has a timing, it has a logo, it's designed to be facing for a right-handed shooter. And you went with a neutral timing because, true to B&T and its ambidextrous space, this can go, you can time it if you wanted to, but to be, I don't know, what would you call it, like aesthetically pleasing and correct, it times to a neutral position. So when you're shooting ambidextrous, moving through rooms, or passing this rifle to another shooter, you're getting a straight downward angle on that recoil momentum. That's really, really cool. And then of course it's timed correct. I've noticed a handful of guys time it wrong, and they put ports up and then they don't leave a long tine facing down.
Right.
It's like, well, when you're shooting the prone, you want the long time, like.
It's an education process, I guess. Maybe we may need to do a product video on that.
Make it make sense to people.
Yeah,
100%.
Explain the why.
100%. And if this was any recoil reducing within the tines, you want the open one. Yeah, it's interesting, the education process, but I love sharing and learning that
Well,
kind of
that
stuff as
actually
well.
shows your depth of knowledge that you picked that up just now, and you've just seen this.
Sometimes things make sense to me.
Yeah, well,
So now this looks like the old system. However, this is your new hub system.
yep. So what we did is we knocked about half the weight out of it and about half the length out of it. So that this is fully compatible. It's a Rotex SF hub adapter, and it works with our muzzle devices and also works with Surefire's series of muzzle devices. So yeah, that's the Rotex SF, quick detach HUD.
So I can say stuff that Chris is not allowed to say. I went to the Surefire booth a little while ago. There wasn't really anybody there to talk at the time. And I saw this sitting on their shelf. I said, oh, I said, does it work with the B&Ts? And he says, it works with ours. I was like, we're back to that. You're targeting your audience and you're happy and they're happy. But there's a whole other side of civilian side that wants to be able to prostitute these muzzle devices, play with these. We're all AR builders these days. So to limit to just yours, to me, I think it's inappropriate, but I think you get to cater to whoever you want with your business, and that's the route they chose. So the other thing I like, when you say you made it shorter, there's been a handful of suppressors, because of 120 something silencers I have, I'm a curious dude, and I'm like putting different, it's like Legos, and I want to see what fits together and what doesn't. And I have found that there's a handful of suppressors that don't allow the depth for a lot of hub systems. So by shortening this, not only does it save weight, it's also becoming more friendly to more suppressors.
It does.
Really like what happened here. Anything else with all the cool stuff B&T is doing as fast as I can talk about it? Any other cool stuff you want to touch on before we sneak off to our next booth that we're late for?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot more out there. We encourage everybody to, if they see this video.
I saw an APC9 with an MP5 magazine.
You did. Yep.
That's new.
There are a lot of agencies, law enforcement agencies.
Got to recycle their $100 magazines.
Yeah, that actually still have MP5s in service that they're trying to get rid of, or maybe they have gotten rid of. And they have a supply of magazines that are very expensive, and now they can put them to good use.
I'm so glad that came up because, yeah, again, people are going to accuse me of biasism. That's fine. But all the time I get asked, what's the best PCC, pistol caliber, carbine, submachine gun type stuff? And, a lot of the times it's, well, 5.56 is better than 9mm. But if you really want to do the 9mm thing, there's no competition. The APC9, in my opinion, is the best out of the box PCC that a civilian can buy. And of course, lefty me is biased. I like ambidextrous guns, and that's a fully ambidextrous gun. Well, what about MP5s? I have all of the MP5s. I love MP5s. They're iconic. They're cool. I've worked with HK Pro, and I've even taught classes alongside of them. MP5s are very nifty, but they're obsolete. As cool as they are, and as fun as they are, they're obsolete. Their reload process, their manual of arms, as fun and as sexy it is to do your bolt slap, it's dead compared to an AR style last round hold open and a proper ambidextrous reload.
Agreed.
And your magazines and the MP5 magazines with an ETS loader, you can take your box of 9mm, scoop up 10 at a time and load, because the worst thing about my range day is refilling magazines.
Yes.
Especially 9mm.
Oh, absolutely.
So to be able to use that ETS device and scoop these things up on those magazines, not specifically the Glock ones, but your magazines and the MP5 magazines, just makes the day so much more fun. And I feel so much better about putting brass on the ground because I can refill it a lot faster. All right, now that we've captivated, I think, all the big wave tops, anything else to add?
Well, if you see this video and the SHOT Show is still going, come by. There's a whole lot more out on the floor to see. And some are subtle improvements, some are, all new products. So yeah, there's more. There's a new 22 suppressor.
I saw that in a video, and you said it was very lightweight.
There's actually one over your right shoulder.
Yes, so you're using what you've learned from the Print-X system, and because you had, it was black, and I believe you told me it was nylon baffles.
Yes, yeah, polymer black.
Yeah, I remember that.
Polymer nylon.
And I remember kind of thinking like, okay, that's nifty. I'm not sure I'm interested in that. However, this Print-X design, now you're rated to much more. You're lightweight. It's
5.7 rated. It's more than that if you had to in a pinch. But yeah, it's 3D printed titanium suppressor. It is extremely quiet. I don't have the data right now. I don't remember the data, so I'm not going to try to recite it. But it is incredibly quiet, surprisingly quiet, especially for its size.
When I leave here, I'm going to send you an email. We're like, hey, remember that 22 can?
Yep.
We're going to do another, I know you guys love 22 cans. I do too. And we're going to do a deep dive again into 22s. And I think you all gave us permission to not do 5.7x28 in pistol format because it's just not fun. It's sort of dangerous and also just not fun. It can do it, doesn't mean it should do it. I like my 5.7 pistols to not be suppressed. 5.7 rifles, that's a great thing to suppress.
Yep.
That makes sense. But a 5.56 suppressor does a way better job.
Agreed.
But to captivate the audience, people want all of the above for durability and all those things. So we'll probably cover that. But when we do our deep dive, hopefully by then we do have the B&T suppressor to put into that lineup, because I believe we have 20 some odd, maybe 30 some odd, 22 silencers for that next test. All right, guys, if you like this, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to tell you one last thing. So
Yeah.
you and I were talking about Mark 12 suppressors.
Yes.
There's a reduced back pressure system Mark 12 suppressor also over your right shoulder.
Oh, so I called Chris some time ago and I said, I've got some Mark 12 over the barrel style suppressors. Oh my gosh. And you used a mount so you could take this off and put it on other suppressors. So much cool stuff you guys are always into. And I said, Chris, this is a Print-XH H. Yes, because I just looked at the end. I'm like, that's an H. So I called Chris. I said, there's no one who has a Mark 12 over the barrel suppressor that's reduced back pressure. And of the over the barrel suppressors that I have, they are incredibly gassy. They're horrible. I mean, crap to the face. I mean, you just have to tune that gun to be suppressed because it is so extreme. And I've used the rifle speed adjust. I actually have the over the barrel muzzle device pinned and welded on a 14.5 with behind it a rifle speed so I could do these tests. It was like, it was a big feat to do that. And in the end, it's like choked all the way off in order for this to cycle reliably. I'm like, Chris, nobody has a reduced back pressure over the barrel system. Wouldn't it be cool? And he's like, yes, Rob. He was already working on it. And here it is. And I am ridiculously excited to spend some time with it because you don't need to buy the suppressor. You just need this adapter. So if you have an RBS H, you just buy this adapter, Mark 12. Yeah. So while I'm thinking I've got these great ideas, Chris is saying, why make a whole new silencer when I can just make an adapter for an already cool silencer? That's what was going on in your head during that call.
It was.
All right, guys, if you like this video, I got to wrap it up. We're late for another booth because I like spending time here too much. If you like this video, please check out our long form. We went deep down the rabbit hole. I think that was like 45 minutes to an hour of just like where it came from, how it came to be, and how awesome it is. Check out our awards. We had Carl come to the booth so we could present him and the engineers with these awards. That is a big deal award. It's our biggest deal award. If you haven't checked out that video, please do check that out. And as always, you got us here. You got us to SHOT Show. You got us into that award space. Thank you. So please keep up that hard work and the likes, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. That stuff really does go a long way in the world of silly YouTube. All right, guys, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the comments.